Hello, welcome. I'm Claudia. If you're new here, if you're back, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you so much. Today I am finally going to be answering your questions from the prompt I added over in the community tab. I think it was in September, and I said that I would be filming early October, and it is now late October. It's the 26th. Where does the time go? I procrastinated quite a bit shooting this video, not because I didn't want to chat with you and answer your questions, but because I needed to gather supplies to do it. And sometimes those kinds of tasks, I don't know, I just get in my head and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go, look for the right pots that I need and blah, blah, blah. And then once I landed on like, all right, well, I need to do that either way. And then I was like, what do I want to repot? And long story short, I finally landed. I do want to do the prop box graduates with you. So it's anything that's been acclimating, rehabbing, propagating, whatever that is ready to graduate from that condition into Gen Pop. And I didn't pick that many plants. There aren't that many questions, so I should be able to get to all of them. I think I have like 6 plants that I for sure want to do. There's obviously more that I can, but yeah, I'm excited to get them done and bring them into my space. I am in the breakfast nook area, which is part of our kitchen, and my husband is training a dog outside, and Hunter is getting quite whiny because he wants to be out there with them. He'll be able to join them in a minute, but I apologize for the extra noise. I will try my best to film around the noisy parts, and I hope that this sounds good to you. I'll go get the first plant and we'll get started. I just spent some time procrastinating a little bit more, debating on what plant to start with. And it's funny because before I started filming, I was like, I knew what plant I wanted to start with, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I'm changing my mind now. Doesn't really matter what plant I start with. I guess there's nothing left to do but go get the plants. I figured I'll just introduce each plant as I get them. We're gonna start with my philodendron Florida Ghost. If you remember, I chopped this plant completely back after the poles were just not looking good. And then this one I had chopped once before and it only activated 1 growth point, blah, 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 chopped it. I ended up with some wet sticks that aren't in the prop box. And I do think this was my only top cut. I'm not positive though. I'd have to go back and check. But anyway, it's growing. So we are going to pot him up. And of course I'm gonna pot him up in semi-hydro because I just feel like they're easier to care for, well, with my care habits anyway. Like the chronic underwater that I am, it's just easier for me. But I guess also I should look up our first question. Why do you not buy more tissue cultures, which they say are less expensive? Okay, so actually first of all, a lot of the plants that we buy in big box stores or even nurseries or plant shops, a lot of those are tissue culture. So I definitely do buy them, and frequently, I guess, or a lot of my collection is probably tissue culture. Now, why don't I buy them in the little like flasked or even like newly unflasked? The answer, I guess, is there's a little bit more to the story. So it's like stuck and I'm worried. I don't want to hurt the growth point. Okay, so I only have experience unflasking tissue culture once, and it wasn't very successful. It was a philodendron, caramel marble, and an Alocasia dragon scale elbow. And the dragon scale actually made it. The roots look so nice. The dragon scale actually did make it and it looked nice, but the caramel marble didn't. In general, I found the experience, like the Alocasia even, took a really long time to settle and finally start growing roots and everything. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was an okay experience. I guess if that would have been my only experience with tissue culture, I would probably feel differently. But the reason I really don't seek these out is because tissue culture tends to have a lot of strange things can happen to the plants. A lot of strange mutations, whether it's to the growth pattern or even like leaf shape or variegation especially. And the reason I recently I don't think I said it here, but I was on Instagram, I was like, I'm low-key looking for a Monstera mint but non-tissue culture, is because I feel I've been burned with tissue culture quite a bit, like early tissue culture releases of the pink black velvet Alocasia. Mine did well for a little bit and then it completely self-destructed, and it gave me corms, but they never sprouted, never rooted, something that's never happened to me before. I also got a Monstera white monster tissue culture, and that thing it was such a slow grower, like maybe one leaf every 6 months. The leaves looked wonky, and then it also self-destructed, turned all white. I feel like there's a third one that I felt really jaded by. I can't think of it, but yeah, I mean, those plants were not expensive. And I remember I had a big credit at Palm Street, which is how I got my Alocasia pink black velvet. But I feel like I still paid $100 something for it at the time. And yeah, I mean, I don't have the plant anymore. It's, you know, it's self-destructed and the corms never came to. And I see other people's beautiful plants that were grown from a corm versus, you know, the tissue culture, whatever. And there's just a difference in quality. And I guess for me, I'm not against buying tissue culture, but I don't want those early generations where we're not sure what's happening with the mutation. Also, like maybe just a little bit more established plants. Just to kind of know a little bit more what you're getting. I'm gonna go rinse this in the sink because it's not coming off and I'd rather get all of it off. Here's what the roots are looking like. I hope all that made sense. I'm not against tissue culture. I'm gonna use one of these pots. I think tissue culture on its own is great for making plants more accessible to the masses, but I just think that, like everything, right, with the mass production, like weird things are happening, and when you're still paying a lot of money, like I paid, I think it was $350 or maybe $3.99 for my Alocasia pink black velvet, and again, out of pocket, I think I only paid, not only, but like $100 maybe. So that's still a lot of money, and for the way it turned out, and again, it wasn't my first experience with tissue culture turning out unsavory. So I just feel like, I don't know, it's a big gamble. I didn't tell you, but I'm adding a Grow Thickly small pole, and it's going to be empty as I like to keep them. So I hope that made sense. I will say, I feel like I've heard many people have great experiences getting like tissue culture still in the flask and all of that, and that is wonderful. I feel like I was really encouraged at first to get more tissue culture and all of that, but just now I feel like I'm more, after those experiences, I'm definitely a lot more mindful. I usually like to water at the end, but since these were in like stratum and a consistent moist environment, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to water as I go to try to avoid any kind of shock. And this is my nutrient-rich cocktail, of course. Okay. Here it is. I'm super excited to add this guy back in my plant office space. Yeah, I feel like I got him and then I didn't like him, and then I just started like giving it more light and watering it frequently, and I fell in love with it. And I'm not really sure what happened, why I chopped it. Maybe I just wanted to chop it and it just didn't turn out. But yeah, I'm excited to bring him back. Up next, we are going to do my Alocasia Venom. We rehabbed her in one of my recent-ish like SOS or rescues videos, and she actually had a baby that I ended up separating. The baby now has a baby, and the mother actually has 3 different corms. So I don't want to remove any of the corms. I'd like to keep this as is. And I've been debating as to whether I should pot these up together or just keep the mother and then maybe move on from the baby, or maybe like, I don't know, keep the baby as backup. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna pot up the mother, and I may wait on the baby a little bit longer. Like, honestly, it doesn't look like super overwhelming with roots, the baby. So, but look at this leaf. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, so I'm actually gonna return her and we'll just work on the mom. I really hope that this lighting is okay. It's later in the evening and I'm in a different spot and, you know, all the jazz, so we will see. Let me get your next question. Hello, I also have a question about Hoyas rotting in pond. There must be something I'm not doing right. Is it my DIY pond that's wrong? Is it the conditions and lighting of the plant? Does that ever happen to you? Can you share your DIY recipe for pond and your thoughts why Hoyas would be rotting in pond after soil transfer? Oh, well, that tells me everything, honestly. After soil transfer, I've never transferred a Hoya from soil to pond. When I've wanted to move a Hoya from soil to pond, I take cuttings and start a brand new plant. In general, I find that Hoyas just have extremely fragile root systems, and yeah, in my experience, like, I haven't had a lot of success with even transferring like a regular propagation back into soil. I feel like I've struggled with that. So I think that the biggest, or like what you're probably encountering, is the shock from soil to pond and the roots simply not tolerating that. And it's normal actually for the soil roots to rot. The trick is, can they grow new roots before the plant starts going downhill? So I would advise, if you're looking to transfer them from soil to pond, to take cuttings and start a new plant that way. And then also to know, in general, I feel like some root rot is kind of normal with pond or semi-hydro in general, and it can be due to a number of reasons, like just the way that like the roots may be like growing down into the reservoir and they're holding on to water for too long, or that kind of thing. But I usually don't find a problem unless you're truly way overwatering, like keeping the reservoir too full at all times, or completely underwatering and letting it dry for way too long between waterings. Okay, I got most of it out. I can't believe she has 3 babies. And this is what the root system is looking like. I guess another thing that I would say, I need a pot. I'm gonna be using this lechuza pot for her. I really love these. I guess another thing that I would say with Hoya and pond is that I really would only, personally, I would only recommend it for thinner leaved Hoyas that are thirstier. So not necessarily a carnosa variety, or just thicker leafed Hoyas in general, because I feel like their leaves hold on to so much moisture that I would imagine it's trickier to get watering correctly for them in semi-hydro. Although I guess if they're acclimated to semi-hydro, then, you know, it really shouldn't matter. But those are my thoughts on that. And then as far as my DIY recipe, I'll add it on the screen and in the description below if you want to reference it. But I just do equal parts of the 3 ingredients. I know that Lechuza Pond is a different ratio for theirs, but I mean, really, you could just do like just pumice if you wanted to, or even just perlite, and it should be a good semi-hydro substrate. But I think the issue you're experiencing is more to do with the complete root shock and, you know, the roots being so sensitive. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love her. So silvery. Placing the leaves was kind of tricky with like the meter, but she looks so good. Look how silver this leaf is. Like the characteristics of this plant is, they're just so cool. I'm so excited. I brought in some light, so I hope it's okay or a little better. Okay, the next plant we're gonna do is Anthurium papilla. I can't say it. I got this plant some time ago and it promptly started going downhill. And so I just chopped it all back. I chopped the roots and I put it in pond to, you know, kind of like reroot and rehab. And it was sitting, or it was inside one of my boxes, the clear boxes. And it shot out 2 growth points, which is exciting. It shot out these 2 leaves, which got damaged from just being squished in there. And then this is the newest leaf right here. It's still very much soft, but I want to move it on to an actual pot so that I can start feeding it, and hopefully it'll continue growing nicely. When I'm with a plant, I forget we're doing questions. When I'm answering your question, I forget I'm doing plants. So, okay, next. You have a video 2024 about using silica. I wonder if you have an update about these plants that you tried using the product. I do have an update on those particular Ficus triangularis with and without the silica. Long story short, neither of them made it, but I was also using silica incorrectly. So you're supposed to, silica is supposed to be the very first thing that you mix in, or that you add into your water, clean water and clean jug, and I was not doing that. So I was just adding it whenever, I think, or whatever. And the roots honestly don't look that good. I guess we're gonna try it, see what happens. So yeah, long story short, that experiment was void. I did update on that. There is an update video somewhere where I mentioned all of that and go into, you know, I screwed this up, and I did and still use silica sometimes because I continued to use it after that, and you know, now mixing it properly. But I have to be honest and say that I don't think I noticed that big of a difference in my plant's health using silica versus not. So I haven't been as consistent using silica now, probably over the last 3 months or so. But yeah, that's the story with my silica experiment. Here it is. I think I'm gonna put it back in one of those clear boxes so that it continues to get the humidity that it was getting. There's a little bit more room in there now that I've moved some things around, and you know, things are graduating out of there. So we'll see how this does. Stay tuned. One more question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask about the nutrient solution you use while watering. How do you make it? What ingredients and why? Do you use it for every watering? Fresh propagations as well? Thank you. My nutrient-rich cocktail, I usually note it all the time on my description box, but I will add it here on the screen as well while I tell you a little bit about it. So it's water, silica, Again, I haven't been as consistent with it as of late. Then I do fertilizer, and I do either Foliage Pro or Happy Houseplant plant food, which is the same formula, but I do want to say that I recently got the new product line of Happy Houseplant, and I was out of Foliage Pro, and I've been using, and this is going on a different direction now. Anyway, so I started using Happy Houseplant regularly, and I noticed a big increase in growth since I started using Happy Houseplant, which is interesting because it's the exact same formula as Foliage Pro. I guess the only way that I can make sense of that is that Foliage Pro I usually get like off of Amazon, and maybe it's like really old stock or something that has lost some of its potency, but it's the exact same formula. So anyway, I do water, silica sometimes if I feel like it, fertilizer, which is either Foliage Pro or Happy Houseplant, and then I do the Bug Hut Biological Trio, which is the de-stressor, enhancer, and yikes, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking, but I'll note it on the screen. And then finally I do the anti-fungus gnat drops from Happy Houseplant, and I haven't had gnats since starting to use that consistently. Sorry, I didn't tell you the plant. So this is actually, I don't know, I forget the ID. It's a world salad in Carlos, and this is from one of Tyler's anthuriums from Russo Plant Care, if you're familiar. And I had no intent on moving him out of his substrate, but actually earlier today, as I was looking at what plants I was going to be repotting for this video, I dropped it and the substrate came completely flying out. Hunter! It's been an insane slow grower, so I just thought, what the heck. In fact, this is the very first leaf it gives me, and I've had it for months. So yeah. And why I use what I use. Well, silica is supposed to be wonderful. It's supposed to get like down on the cellular level of the plant. Just the plant becomes stronger, more resilient, more resistant even to pests. Honestly, I don't feel that was my experience, or I noticed that kind of difference. Also, people claim that it helps with like browning, like on variegated plants. But I mean, I still got a ton of browning on my Monstera aurea. I still had a ridiculous spider mite infestation in my Millsbo wide cabinet. Now, I mean, I don't really know how to explain it. I know growers that I trust and have beautiful plants that really, really love and swear by silica, so that's why I still use it sometimes. Plus, I have plenty of it left over, but that's what silica's for. The fertilizer is obviously the fertilizer. It gives your plant, and the reason I use Foliage Pro or Happy Houseplant is because it's really one of the, or the only fertilizer that's easily accessible that contains all 16 nutrients that a plant needs. And then I use the biologicals from Bug Hut because those help the plant better absorb the nutrients. That's like a really simplified explanation. And then finally, the anti-fungus gnat drops. It's basically BTI drops, self-explanatory. So, you know, that's so that gnats don't hang out in your water and your soil, and they truly, yeah, they're magic. Do you have any care tips for Begonia pollensis? I haven't seen a lot of creators talk about this one, and mine is struggling. It keeps putting out tiny leaves and not really upsizing. Mine lives under a grow light. Love your videos. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. So Begonia pollensis, no, I don't really have any care tips because I have tried once or twice with the Begonia pollensis. I think actually just once. I ordered a tiny plant. Oh, next we are going to do my Longiloba purple. She is ready to graduate from her rehab situation, and she's going back into her pot with Pawn. Yeah, so I ordered a plant that I mean, it was labeled as a starter plant, but, or was it labeled? I think it was labeled as a 4-inch Begonia paulensis. And then I received it, and it wasn't a 4-inch pot, but it was like a itty bitty starter plug that had just been plopped into that 4-inch pot, and it did not look good. Actually, I think I have tried twice with the Begonia paulensis. So that's the second one I tried with. And as soon as it arrived, I saw it didn't look good. So I tried to leaf propagate by doing the, you know, where you cut the leaf and you cut the little veins, and then and also like the whole leaf version. And those all rotted. It didn't survive. And the original plant also did not survive. And then, so that was the second time. The first one, I feel like I had a similar experience, but I didn't try to propagate it. I just tried to like rehab it, and it didn't come to. So I'm sorry, I can't help. I feel like Begonia paulensis, I mean, have you seen Ferns? She has, I feel like she's made all of us want a Begonia paulensis because hers looks so pretty and she grew it so big. And she says it's easy going. But yeah, they're tough to find, and I also feel like price gouging is happening with that plant. And honestly, I just haven't seen, because every now and then I'll see like small starter plants again, but I'm feeling like I want something that's just a little bit more established, because I'm just, yeah, I just don't want to be in the situation I was in already 2 other times. So I'm sorry, I wish I could help more, but I haven't had the opportunity to have experience with it. It's such a cool looking begonia though. If you have one, please drop your care tips, or if you know where we can find one, please let us know. This is gonna outgrow this pot pretty quickly. Okay, I actually need to get more water. Yay, Q&A. I have switched some of my Hoya from soil to pond, cleaned the roots thoroughly, no soil left on them. The roots rotted within 4 days. Is there anything I could do differently? And do you think they'll regrow more roots? New to Hoya, but not to plants. So I think this is a similar situation as the previous question I answered. I don't think that Hoya transfer well substrates. Like if they are in soil and you're hoping to transfer them to pond, I would take cuttings and start a complete new plant. And it is possible for them to, this might be a little bit too much water. It is possible for them to grow new roots, but it's kind of a race of like, what's going to happen first? Is it going to grow new roots in time before like all the roots rot and the leaves run out of water? So it's a fine line there. So that's what I would do. I would just take cuttings if you're looking to transfer. Okay, here's what she's looking like. The baby is actually also ready to be potted up, but I don't like any of the pots that I have for her, so she's gonna wait a little bit longer, and I'm gonna take her right back to the cabinet where she lives because I don't want her to get upset with me. How did you get into dog training? Next, we are going to do my Syngonium elbow. It's ready to be potted up. Of course, it's gonna go into pond. I think everything today is going into pond, and it's going to be a 2-parter because I decided I'm gonna chop the mother plant again and eventually add the roots all together into the one pot. Gosh, I totally have a brain freeze. Okay, how did I get into dog training? So, I mean, my husband's the one that really went all in, and his job now involves dog training on a very skilled and specific level, but it kind of started for both of us. So we both love dogs, and when we met, he had a dog, Bailey, that became our dog, of course. I also had a dog, Ursula, but Bailey was just not friendly. She was, I mean, she loved people, loved people, but she was very reactive with other dogs. Her and my dog didn't get along. They actually got, the first time they met, they got in a big fight. It was really scary. I mean, long story short, we had no idea what we were doing with her, but that is what motivated us to start learning about dog psychology and dog behavior and like what we could do. And it was actually really life-changing when, I forget what course it is that we were taking or that we were learning about, but it was like, your dog doesn't need to love other dogs, but it's also not okay for it to attack other dogs. But it was just like a weight lifted, like, oh yeah, it's okay if my dog isn't social, but like, okay, how do we help de-escalate situations or not allow situations to escalate? And that's kind of where it started, our passion with both of us. And again, my husband took it to a very skilled and professional level. And we got, after Bailey, we got Bear while Bailey was still alive. And then Hunter is my husband's retired working dog. And then it just became this passion of like, and then all the things, because, you know, Bailey got older and stuff, but it was like, God, I wish we knew all of this when Bailey was younger or when Bailey was here, because we could have made her life and ours, but her life so much more enjoyable and pleasant. And we didn't have to put her in those situations, or we handled that situation completely wrong. So yeah, it just became a passion. I'm a big dog lover, so is my husband, but it's like we truly feel they're our family, they're our children. I often say, like, people don't deserve dogs. I just think that they're wonderful. And a lot of times we just don't know what we're doing or what we're supposed to do, or no one's ever told us before certain things. And yeah, if there are things that we can do to help our pups live a happier, calmer life, like, I think that we should do that. And, you know, in turn, it also makes our life easier too. This guy is looking so cute already. Let me look up next question. Also interested in your nutrition fertilizing program. As asked previously, could you also go over your DIY pest control? Are you still mixing the same? Do you leave it on? How often? All plants, etc. So I went over my nutrient-rich cocktail, my DIY pest repellent. I will note all the ingredients in the screen, but yeah, for sure, I mix the same thing every time. I will say I tend to like measure with the heart. I've done it so many times now that I don't actually get like measuring cups or measuring spoons or whatever. I just kind of eyeball it. And I try to, ideally, this is what I would like to do in a perfect world. Every watering, I would like to take every plant to the sink or to the shower and shower off, and then finish off with my nutrient-rich cocktail. If that's once a week, I would love to do that once a week. If that's once every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it is. Realistically, I probably end up spraying each plant about every month-ish. And yes, I do it on all of my plants. I aim to do it in the evenings because it can burn the leaves if they're exposed to light, like the grow lights or even the sun, but water even on its own can do that. So I'm careful to try to time it where I'm doing it in the evenings, or make sure that I turn the grow lights off. I use it on all of my plants, and I don't dry the leaves off. I just let it dry on them. I haven't noticed any damage from my nutrient or from my DIY pest repellent. Yeah, I think I answered everything. One more thing, I know I've said 100 times, but those electric sprayers changed my life in terms of spraying my DIY pest repellent, or like for pest control. Like, I don't know. I really don't know what I would do without them. I feel like they make everything so much easier. Okay, this is what this guy is looking like, and he's super cute. Cannot wait to bring him over into my space. Let's chop the mom while we're here and get to the next question. Not really a question, but would like tips on organization ideas. I feel during my plant journey, I have accumulated a lot of different items and it sprawled all over the place. So I'm curious about how you keep things organized and stored. Thanks, I love your channel. Thank you so much for being here. So I have, my nutrient-rich cocktail lives under the sink. That's where I have my jug with the pump, and then also the, I don't know if I cut down here because this is spent, and so is that. I guess here, and that would keep growing. Okay, let's see what happens to this. The jug, the pump, my watering can, and then also the ingredient bottles for my nutrient-rich cocktail live under the sink. Also the ingredients for my DIY pest repellent live in there, and that's it. Then there's a closet by the laundry area that we have like cleaning supplies and stuff, but it has like a way upper level, and up there I keep like pots, so self-watering pots, or even like these propagation cups and things like that. And then also in that closet, I'm just reusing old stratum, or that same stratum that I've been not using. Okay, and I'm gonna take this over to the grow rack. Sorry, I completely forgot where I left off. We are gonna move this into pond, but it's still going to live over in the grow rack in one of these cups as it continues to root, because it's still quite small, but it no longer fit where it was. Okay, so I have pots up there. I have my substrates also in bins in there, and then honestly, the grow rack that is over in my laundry area has a bunch of other, like more pots, substrate bags, and things like that. I try to keep my substrate bags in the shed outside, but they don't always make it back out there because I don't know, life. Yeah, plant stuff is a lot. I would recommend the best you can keeping things kind of where you use them. So like, sorry, it's just so loud. So for example, I never have a problem returning my water jug or my watering can or all of those watering supplies back under the sink, because it makes complete sense that that's where they live. Like that's where I refill the water, and yeah, it just makes perfect sense. It's completely accessible. But as far as substrates, I feel like that for sure gets trickier for me. Also, at some point, like I just made too many different versions of substrates. Like I have bins for my aeroid mix as well as like just my regular DIY chunky mix, and then I have another one that's just like tree fern and perlite. And I mean, space is only so much, right? So yeah, my stuff is for sure not perfectly organized, but I do kind of have those designated spaces where things go. And then I've been keeping a bin, like just a large bin of like pots that need to be washed and rinsed. Like I'll rinse them after I use them. Like these, for example, will probably go in that bin. And then, you know, within a few weeks when that bin fills up, and then I'll go and wash them. But just so that they're not, you know, just kind of taking over everywhere in the house. But yeah, plant stuff is a lot. Here is this cutie. This is the dragon's breath. So she promptly went downhill like quickly after I got her. So I chopped her. This is the top cut, and she sprouted. So I'm excited to see her grow, but she's going to continue living in the grow rack for now because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how well she's gonna, I'm just not ready to babysit her, I guess, in Gen Pop. This is the last one we're gonna do. She is technically not a rehab, but she has been ready to be upsized for a minute. She lives over in the grow cart, and then today I knocked her over and This leads me to believe that she's a very thirsty gal because I had just given her water yesterday. I knocked her over today and she's wilted in just a day or a few hours of no water. She's already in Collyrocks Pond, so we're gonna keep her in that. I forgot the pot. Gonna use one of these. Okay, and I think we're down to the last question also. My 9-year-old wants a puppy. We want to know what the best way to get her trained before we get a puppy. What is the typical of it all? She knows it's a lot of responsibility, and I don't think she is ready for the amount of work to take care of one. We are considering fish at the moment. I think fish is a great way to start. Listen, I love dogs. I can't imagine life without them, but they are a lot of responsibility. And depending on the dog you get, you know, whether you get it from a breeder or you rescue, like they all kind of have their personality traits that come from their breed or breeds, as well as whatever their experience may be, or, you know, the environment they're in and all of that. I will say a puppy is an insane amount of work. Like, they are just a lot, especially if they're not potty trained. It's a lot of work. You'll have to be taking them outside literally every 15 minutes to try to teach them, you know, to potty outside. And they're very needy in that they have tons of energy. They don't stop. They also, you know, they will teeth at one point, and that's kind of why they start nibbling at things or chewing on furniture or shoes or things like that. So I don't know so much what you could do to prep your 9-year-old. Maybe like, do they still have those, what were they, Gigapets or something, where like you had to feed them and stuff? Other than doing something like that and see how she does. But I actually think that a fish is a great way to start because it'll teach them to feed it, you know, twice a day or once a day or however many times a day you need to feed a fish, and to clean their tank and things like that. So they'll start learning responsibility that way. Again, I love dogs and I can't imagine life without them, so I don't want to discourage you from getting one, but I think that if you get one for your child, you know, you're getting it for you too. Like, you will be the primary caretaker of this pup, especially if they're a puppy. Stuff with puppies and dogs in general, they need to be like mentally and physically stimulated, so they need to get energy out, whether that's in walks or throwing a ball and things like that. So they're wonderful because, you know, they're also can be very lazy and cuddly and just so sweet. But they're, yeah, for a 9-year-old, I feel like that's a big responsibility. So I don't know if this answer helped at all. I do think a fish is a great starting point, and see how they do with the responsibilities of the fish, and then maybe use that as leverage of, yes, you're ready, or no, you're not ready, or you need to step it up because the dog is going to be a lot more work than that. That was all your questions. We worked on 8.5 plants. If you count the Syngonium, we practiced well. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. Thank you so much for spending your time with me as I chatted with you and repotted some of these plants. I'm so excited to get them into my main space. I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, truly. I feel like I maybe repeat that a lot in a video or like at the beginning or the end, but truly I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to spend this time with you and share one of the things I love so much. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you again so much, and thank you for your patience because it took me like a whole extra month to film this and get back to you with your questions. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you very soon. Bye.